There is a program helping African Americans in Illinois connect with their roots. Brianna Harris spoke to a University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign professor who says people anywhere in the state can take part.
What is it that you can tell us about the new Illinois Family Roots pilot program?
Oh, it's a groundbreaking program. It was funded and supported by House Resolution 453 that was adopted a couple of years ago. And it is to support African Americans, particularly to recover the family history that was lost as a result of slavery, as a result of mass human trafficking from Africa, and then the subsequent, events that happened, like policy and things like that, basically disrupted this ability to put together a cohesive family narrative. And so it comes from that idea of repair, psychological well-being, and things like that.
And why was it important for you to bring a program like this to, starting this program in Illinois?
I'm also a researcher in this. And so from, interviewing people, interviewing African Americans, there are many people who want to reclaim their family history. And it just goes back to that core psychological task of identity development that every human experience. And then we were able to receive state appropriations to do this free of charge for about 1,500 or so people in Illinois. So those two together, the university, supported me in the research, and then lawmakers also supporting it and bringing it to people. I've always wanted to be able to do research that had a direct impact, and an impact that I can see, and, from the emails and from other interactions, like other events, this is the best part, hearing people sharing their whys. Why do they want to participate? And some of them are, some of the stories are really personal, wanting to find closer family members, wanting to uncover the family members that was lost during slavery. So, and then some are able to identify living African relatives. So that part is exciting as well. So the community narrative has been, separation from Africa was so long ago, you would never be able to find family members. That's just simply not true. That period is as recent as 4 to 20 generations for our elderly population. So we can definitely find some living African relatives, and we've been able to do that.
But with the DNA testing, how long will it take for them to get those results back?
It takes about a month to do the genotyping itself. And then outside of that, a week or two to receive the saliva sample, and about another week or whatever for the making sure that the analysis run, and then people receive the results. So we're looking at like about 2 months if, everything just goes, just smoothly. But again, we are working on the web development part, which extends that time sometimes right now. After June, though, it should, go like clockwork, and should be a more predictable time scale. So we are continuing it beyond June because this is a part of the African Kinship Reunion, which is an ongoing research project. So at the end of the pilot program, people can stay in the project and continue to get updated results as we're testing more people from the continent.
Those were all of my questions. Was there anything else that you may wanted to include?
For people to go to the website, it's really helpful if people sign up beforehand. When people join the program, they'll be presented with 2 options. One is to pick up a kit at any event. The other is to request it by mail. And so they're requested by mail. They'll just be asked to confirm their address, and then they'll go on the mail list. And then when we process the kits for mail, we'll mail them a kit. It'll have a prepaid postage label there already. They just send that back, and then we'll process it that way.